So in this video, I'm going to talk about why we should not colonize Mars, meaning we should not establish a human colony on Mars. And then I'm going to talk about some of the alternatives of what we as humanity should be focusing on instead of colonizing Mars. Okay, so colonizing Mars, what are some of the disadvantages or reasons why we should not establish human colonies on Mars? Well, first of all, let's look at Elon Musk's argument that humanity on this planet is doomed to a predestined fate of destruction, and therefore we need to establish a human colony on Mars to avoid complete destruction as a human species. His argument certainly has merit. Obviously, as he mentioned, in 500 million years, the sun will start expanding and the oceans will evaporate and the planet will become uninhabitable for human beings. That is true. 500 million years is a pretty damn long time. Even 100 million years, if you think about it, even 50 million years. I think that's a pretty weak argument for a lot of reasons. Certainly, I agree with his sentiment that humans need to leave Earth eventually in order to find other planets in the universe to colonize. And I'll get to that in a moment. But why shouldn't we, with our current state of technology, spend all of our time and resources trying to colonize Mars? Okay, that's kind of like putting the cart before the horse. So, for example, if you look at Easter Island, they spent all their time on a pipe dream of building these statues to their gods, and they basically, in the process, deforested their island and made their own island uninhabitable in the process of this pipe dream of building these statues. Okay, destroying biodiversity and destroying their own home, if you will, for a kind of pie in the sky vision of what they were trying to do. It wasn't sustainable. So my argument here is that if we spend all of our time and resources thinking, the Earth is going to hell in a handbasket, but we're all going to just colonize Mars, and therefore we're good to go. We're good. I think that is very misguided for a lot of reasons. I think what we should be doing instead is taking care of this planet and spending more time and resources on planetary defense, as we're currently doing, to be able to destroy incoming asteroids that may threaten the Earth. That is certainly a worthy cause that deserves a lot more funding, actually. That's where you would want to put your money: planetary defense and planetary ecosystem restoration. Okay, cleaning up the oceans, saving the rainforests. Okay, sustainability on this planet, because this planet is viable. Mars is not viable. It doesn't have a magnetic field. There's a lot of factors to take into consideration for a human colony. Gravity, you could say, well, we'll just all evolve to, Martian gravity, and we'll just all get used to living in a tin can in Mars, a dead planet without an atmosphere, without oceans, without running water, without green grass. Okay. You might have seen the show The Shining by Stephen King. And so when you have people cooped up for long periods of time, they kind of go crazy. It's called cabin fever. And, getting back to The Shining, basically what you had is this writer who wanted to, he saw it as a win-win. I'll take care of this hotel for a season during the winter when it's closed. I'll be able to write my books and I'll make some money while I'm doing it. Well, what happened is he got cabin fever and he went crazy, and then he started running around trying to kill his wife and son with an axe. Okay. So I think there's probably a lot of psychological problems in space, maybe that go unreported, because when you put people in confinement in an unnatural environment for long periods of time, that takes a toll on the human psychology. For example, I can't even imagine being in a no gravity environment for a long period of time, because when your muscles start to atrophy, like in space, for example, the International Space Station, your muscles start to atrophy. And I can't imagine what that would do to the psychology of most people when your muscles and bones start to waste away. There are probably psychological problems that don't really get reported. And imagine being in basically a tin can or a metal container on the surface of Mars, a planet that you know is dead. You can't just go outside and walk on the green grass and feel the sun on your face. If you had to get a one-way ticket to Mars, maybe 6 months, a year, but 5 years, 10 years. I mean, you're talking a one-way ticket. You're talking about people permanently moving to Mars. You're going to have psychological problems. You're going to have all kinds of unforeseen human issues with that. So again, I think that's kind of pie in the sky. And I think it could actually divert us away from doing the work that needs to be done to make sure that this planet is viable. Now, where I agree is that we do need to leave this planet eventually, for sure. But do we need 500 million years to do that? No. I'm going to go out on a limb and say we need 1,000 years. If we can hold it together on this planet for 1,000 years without destroying ourselves, we should be able to develop warp technology, warp drive, Einstein-Rosen bridges, basically our own UFOs that can go to other star systems nearly instantaneously, like in Star Trek, and we can find what they call in Star Trek Class M planets that are already plug and play. They're already ready to go. Okay, they're already compatible with human life forms. And of all the trillions of stars in the universe, I'm pretty sure that once we have warp drive capability, we will be able to find planets very similar in gravity and oxygen levels and other things that we need that would basically be in Star Trek what they call a Class M planet that you could just go down to and breathe the air and you're good to go. That would be the most realistic long-term plan. But in order to bridge that gap, how do we get there? Okay, how do we get to the next 1,000 years? Well, first of all, we don't destroy the planet we're already on. We don't destroy our oceans. We don't destroy our rainforests. We don't destroy our biodiversity. Yes, we spend money on planetary defense and asteroids, being able to destroy any asteroids that would threaten our planet. And if we can hold it together for 1,000 years, we can develop the spacecraft that would be able to go from point A to point B nearly instantaneously, wormholes, warp drive, Einstein-Rosen bridges, whatever you want to call it. And I think there's a lot of compelling science already that indicates that is possible to do that. Certainly, look at how far we've evolved in 200 years. If you were to go back in time and tell George Washington that today in 2022, we have metal ships that can fly over the ocean in a couple of hours. We can go from New York to London in a few hours, thousands of feet above the earth. He would have thought you were a complete lunatic. He would have thought there's no possible way such a thing is possible. And so in just a short amount of time, we've accelerated at an exponential rate. So in 1,000 years, probably less than that, maybe even 100, we can even develop our own warp drive technology. That's where we need to spend our money. Now, I will say, I am not saying don't go to Mars. I'm saying don't waste your time with a human colony trying to say that we're going to just take a bunch of people and establish humanity on Mars. I think that's a waste. But what I don't think is a waste with Mars is I think we should continue to send probes there. Actually, what I would say is we need to establish a colony of robots on Mars and using nuclear power plants so that we can mine Mars and take any rare earths or metals or precious metals or materials that we need from that planet back to this planet so that we don't have to strip mine this planet. Now, I think that's a worthy cause. You basically establish androids, robots. You use the resources of Mars to build the infrastructure you need so that you can basically have large-scale mining operations on Mars and strip mine Mars and take all of its resources and even refine them. I mean, if you establish nuclear power plants on Mars and you've got full scale mining and refining, then you take refined metals and things like that, and you bring them back to the Earth. Now, I think that is a worthy cause. And you could, and then the other reason to be on Mars would be for scientific purposes, laboratories and things like that, that you could do science experiments on Mars with AI and robots. I think that is a worthy use of our time, because that could actually help save the planet that we're on. Instead of strip mining our planet, which is a living planet with biodiversity, we strip mine a dead planet. And the reason why Mars is good for that is because, unlike an asteroid it's very unstable, Mars, being a planet, is stable enough to establish a colony of robots on Mars for the purposes of mining and scientific exploration. Now, that is a worthy cause that could help save this planet. Okay, so that's the argument. Again, I think on the basic premise of leaving the Earth, I think, I completely agree with Elon Musk. He's spot on. We need to do that. But, to say, oh, the oceans are going to dry up in 500 million years, and that's why we need to colonize Mars today with rocket ships and put human colonies on Mars, I think that's putting the cart before the horse. So again, that's kind of the argument, is we need to do it, but we need to just be able to survive at least for 1,000 years so that we can develop our own warp drive capabilities and spaceships, starships that can go out, travel the universe in short amounts of time, going from point A to point B, and find other class M planets like the Earth that we can colonize. That's the argument. I'm looking forward to your comments. Please hit that like button, share this video with a friend, and please subscribe to this channel so that we can keep the dialogue going. Okay, take care for now. Bye-bye.